I think my father went for 1 year, and they didn't really have a lot of advice. They loved me dearly, but they really didn't have the skills or the capacity to set me up and to set my expectations for what the challenges of getting through college were like. And so I struggled with that, but I think for young folks out there, you just stay the course, whether it's 2 courses or 3 courses. One of the things that I learned was that as long as you stay involved and you continue to make progress, time's going to pass and you'll get to your goal. You've just got to, keep going. A journey of 1,000 miles, my dad always told me, begins with but a single step. So I think it's just staying on that course.
I think mentorship is really important, and having someone in your life to say, look, this is the school of experience, the school of hard knocks. The road is going to be winding and tough.
Right.
But you can get through it, and that's the thing that I often talk to young folks about is the desire to not only get to the goal line and then cross it, but to achieve while you're doing it, and you have to learn those lessons. And I think that when you talk about mentorship, folks that have traveled that path before us can afford us of their experiences, but also to let us know what's coming. And when you encounter it, the best way to navigate that if it's problematic. And it sounds like that's a large part of who you are and what you want to bring to the city council. I'm curious, you mentioned your mom and your dad a couple of times. Were they civically engaged, or is this something that, where did you get that?
I grew up in it, as I tell seniors, if there are any of you watching, that I grew up in an intergenerational family because my mom, worked for minimum wage, sometimes had to have a couple of jobs. And my grandmother was always the safety net for my brother and sister and I. And so I think that when you look at, some of these issues, you've got to consider the intergenerational piece and that extra support that you can have. I'd like to see our seniors connected with some of our young folks. Many seniors that I've met would like to learn technology. I had to learn it for my kids, and I've talked to people who are counselors at DYS, and they tell these stories about children who are sitting alone on holidays and the impact that has on them. So I'd like to, there were days, and some folks out there remember these days, and some communities still have these days, but we have an institutional infrastructure for senior citizens and some of our kids. And if we could, sort of create a connection between those institutions around the days when we sat on stoops and looked out for each other, I think that, there's a lot of shared learning that can happen. And we talk about social isolation with seniors and some of the homeless kids or kids who are in DYS custody. And I think that there's a lot of work we can do to bridge those gaps. And, people who've contributed and who've lived in the city and worked and now are in their retirement years have so much experience and incredible levels of information to give and learning about the history of the city, both the things we did wrong and the things that we did right and what we can do better in the future.
So now on the city level, we're going to have a new mayor, mostly a new city council. On the state level, we're going to have new treasurer, new attorney general, new governor, new lieutenant governor. What does that say to you when we're going to have such a turnover in our advocacy, in the people that will do the people's business?
Sure.
Is that a good thing? Is that a cautious thing because a lot of these folks may be kind of on a learning curve?
Sure.
What do you think?
I think that's an interesting point you bring up, and it's been an issue we've had in the election. I've been involved in the community on a deep grassroots level, fighting for equality for the last 20 years. When it came to Boston, I got involved in New Bostonians. I worked on Ted Kennedy's campaign in 1994, and I know the neighborhoods and the concerns of these neighborhoods really well, and I think I bring that experience to City Hall. It's also a fresh perspective and a fresh pair of eyes, because when you're on the ground, you get a different experience than you do when you're in an ivory tower. I think that we have, I understand, I've struggled, so I understand what it means to be a steward of the, economic future of the city. We also have great people like you out there who've been involved for 10 years, and so we have that type of stability, and you've interacted with folks on all these different levels of government. You're doing an amazing job as sheriff, and I think that you will be a core part of that transition, because people are going to come to you when they're new in office and seek your advice and your direction and guidance. So I know that our city is in good hands, and that Bostonians will make the right choices. I have faith in the electorate that they'll make the right choices on November 5th. We're just a couple of points out of winning and getting in the top 4. So I'm here to ask folks for their vote, and
Talk to me about that now. So, up to the primary, there were 19 of you running for the citywide seat. Now there's 8.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the camaraderie that you've experienced. Oh, really? Literally laughing. No, but talk to me. I mean, because you guys and ladies have spent so much time in each other's company.
Sure.
Talk to me about that experience, running for office, running for basically the same seat, but being together with the same folks so consistently.
I think that when we started out in the beginning, one of the jokes that I think you would find among the group of candidates was to see if anyone could name all 19 people. And I could probably do it now. It's much easier to name, the top 8. I met people who each brought different perspectives to the race. Catherine O'Neill, who was a great friend, brought an interesting, unique perspective with her experience working around seniors. I learned a lot from her. And other people. You hear Francisco White out there on the campaign trail taking the challenge, first-time candidate, and talking a lot about social justice issues. And it just raises your awareness about what their particular experiences are and how they relate to what they think the future of the city is, and try to absorb that and take the best pieces of it, move forward. And that's what I want to do when I get elected to the council, is bring all of those experiences to City Hall. My first experience, I was just day one, out there on the signature trail, and I met a woman and I spoke to her, a Haitian woman in Mattapan, and we had a conversation in French, and an interesting conversation explaining my background and sharing our cultural experiences. She signed my nomination papers, and then she pulled out a letter and asked me if I could read it to her because it was in English, and it was an eviction notice. And my heart sunk because, you just realize at a moment like that the impact that you can have on someone's life. And I ran into her at Forest Hills the other day, and we reconnected. Hadn't spoken in a couple of weeks, and we keep in contact. And I try to provide her the support, and make sure she's getting resources and legal, volunteer legal support, and that she knows that I'm present. She can call me anytime.
Yeah, that's what I find to be so fascinating about the work that we're doing, whether you're on the city council or as an attorney, is that it really is the people business. And you really do get an opportunity to interact with folks in a way that maybe most folks don't, and you get, there's a certain richness that I find that really works for me. I mean, I like people, I like working with people, but I also like listening to and learning from people. Part of the reason that we do this show, on one side of the coin, we want folks to know that the Sheriff's Department is a committed community partner, but I also like having folks come on to talk to me and talk to our viewers about what it is that they do and what they're interested in and how those interests overlap with other people's. And you know what? At the end of the day, we all kind of come from the same place.
Really?
We want what's best for us and our families and our communities, and so I applaud what you're doing. I applaud the fact that you get out there on the front line to do this, because this is not by no means an easy business, folks. Trust me on that one. But I really do applaud you. Now look, we've got about a minute and a half left. I want you to look in that camera over there, and I want you to talk to the folks that are watching and tell them why they should consider giving you one of their votes for citywide council.
Great. Well, first of all, I just have to use a few minutes of that to say that I'm honored to be here to celebrate the 200th taping of this show. I know it's going to continue to be a great success in the future, and Sheriff Tompkins has been out there on the front lines of our community for the last many years, at least 10 or 12. And so he's a great steward of our community, and I'm honored to be here. I'm asking for your vote November 5th because I think that I have a lot of ideas to bring to the City Council. I have the experience of coming and triumphing over adversity and working with communities across a broad perspective. Our message has been resonating out there that we can break down barriers across the city and make it a more inclusive and compassionate place. But we need to look at the future and make sure we're creating the types of jobs, that we're getting the diversity in the employment and workforce, and creating opportunity for every Bostonian and uplifting the impoverished residents of the city of Boston. I came from a disparate background. I understand that we need to keep the talent that comes here by creating jobs But we also need to look at the long-term jobs that we're creating and make sure they're not just janitorial jobs or very high-level jobs. If we don't create middle-income jobs and sustain the middle class in the city of Boston, we are going to have a socioeconomically divided society in 20 years. We need to continue to work and build on the great the great progress we've made over the last 20 years, and I'm looking forward to being part of that on the City Council. So I'm here to ask for your vote. I'm number 8 on the ballot. My name is Jeff Ross.
Jeffrey, thank you so much. And I'm sure you guys have a forum or 2 or 10
Sure.
tonight in and of itself. So as I mentioned, good luck.
Thank you very much.
Godspeed, and we'd like to see you back here. Once you're on the City Council, if you're not on the City Council, we'd love to have you come back and talk to us about what you do as an attorney.
Sure, absolutely. I'd love to do that. Thank you for having me.
On. All right, folks, look, we're going to go to a break, and on the other side of the show, we're going to come back with Revere Police Chief Joseph Caffarelli. So please do stay tuned.